Good morning. Thank you all for coming out today. My name is Roseanne Kaposha, and I serve as the Dean of Enrollment Services here at Orange Coast College. It is my pleasure to welcome you all to our beautiful campus as we mark the annual celebration and recognition of Veterans Day and the many contributions of the men and women of the United States Armed Services in preserving our freedoms. Before we proceed with today's presentation, I'd like to take a few minutes to introduce a few special guests. First, President of the Board of Trustees for the Coast Community College District, Mary Hornbuckle. Trustee Jim Marino, Clerk of the Board. Trustee Dr. Elizabeth Dorn Parker. And Vice President of Student Services, Dr. Majid Niramand. Vice President of Administrative Services, Dr. Rich Pagel. President of the Student Veterans of America Orange Coast College Chapter, Alan Leyva. We'll be hearing more from Alan in a short while. And Dr. Marshall Thomas from the California State University Chancellor's Office. The work done here at Orange Coast to support our student veterans would not be possible without the amazing dedication and selfless contributions of our partners, many of whom are to your right, including U.S. vets outside the wire, who support our veterans and their dependents by providing critical mental wellness and support services. Heroes Hall at the Orange County Fairgrounds, a museum celebrating the legacy of Orange County's veterans while telling the important history and interconnectedness between service members and their many contributions to our local Orange County communities. The American Legion Newport Harbor Post 291, a significant partner of our VRC here on campus in helping with our on-campus programming and developing a sense of camaraderie amongst our student veterans as they acclimate to academic and civilian life. And VFW Post 9557. And lastly, if any of you want to go out and test your skills or have a healthy competition, we also have Army physical fitness testing out on the lawn, hosted by the U.S. Army Huntington Beach Recruiting Center and the 387th Quartermaster Company. After today's presentation, I encourage you all to visit with our partners and learn more about how they are supporting veterans here at OCC and in our surrounding communities. As we mark Orange Coast College's 75th anniversary this year, I am reminded that our institution's history is interwoven with that of the county's former military installations and their many contributions to World War II and conflict since. We can trace our own institution's roots back to the former Santa Ana Army Air Base, which in the 1940s occupied over 1,300 acres that now make up Orange Coast College, the Orange County Fairgrounds, Costa Mesa High School, and surrounding neighborhoods. The Santa Ana Army Air Base was responsible for the pre-flight training of over 147,000 service members on their way to becoming pilots, navigators, and bombardiers. The land was transitioned to the newly formed Orange Coast Junior College District in 1948. Since then, tens of thousands of student veterans have entered our doors and crossed the college's commencement stage in their pursuit of higher education and career advancement. I'd like to draw your attention to the back of today's program, where you will find a brief summary about the origins of Veterans Day, and it is very brief. Originally observed as Armistice Day, the 11th day of the 11th month marked the anniversary of the end of World War I and honored its fallen. As our country and much of the world mourned, there remained a desperate glimmer of hope that the Great War could indeed be the war to end all wars. In 1954, as a result of the years-long campaign led by World War II veteran Raymond Weeks, Armistice Day became Veterans Day, a day to commemorate all veterans of all wars and eras, past, present, and future, living and dead. While the hope of a world without war faded and we continued to mourn our fallen, November 11th became a day of celebration and gratitude. The countless contributions and sacrifices of the men and women who have served our country in the United States Armed Forces have been critical to the preservation of this nation and the freedoms we all enjoy every day. Let us take a moment to silently honor all veterans, those who are still with us here today, and those who have paid the ultimate sacrifice. Please join me for a moment.
Good morning. My name is Efren Galvan. I'm the Director of Enrollment Services here at Orange Coast College, and I'm honored to invite to the podium Dr. Marshall Thomas, Director of Veterans Affairs at the California State University Office of the Chancellor. In that role, Dr. Thomas provides support and advocacy for military-affiliated students, including veterans, active duty service members, and their dependents, and people who serve them in the CSU. As an advocate for veterans in higher education, Dr. Thomas speaks frequently at colleges and universities about military culture and the impacts of military service on student veterans. In 2009, he developed the VetNet Ally program to educate college and university faculty, staff, and administrators about student veterans and their unique needs. This 4-hour seminar, which has been presented at more than 60 colleges and universities, including Orange Coast College, is designed to create welcoming campus environments and visible networks of allies to student veterans. His program also makes apparent the unique and valuable contributions our veterans bring to the college and highlights the ways our student veterans enhance the learning experiences of all students. Dr. Thomas also served 6 years in the United States Marine Corps, giving him a wealth of personal experience that helped inform the successful VetNet Ally program. Coming from my own personal and professional experience, Dr. Thomas's work has helped thousands of staff and students across the state become critical supporters of our students' veterans. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the podium, Dr. Marshall Thomas.
Wow, I tell you what, every time I get introduced like that, I wonder if I should just stay seated and listen to the applause and let it be that. So, especially when I have to stand up in front of a podium and everything seems so formal and all of that, I'll try to take it down a notch and be a little less formal with you here. But I do want to first thank you all for being here to celebrate veterans. I was asked last week what my favorite Veterans Day was, or what my best Veterans Day was, and I said, you know, every day is Veterans Day in my world. And we serve veterans in the CSU, but we also serve veterans in the community colleges across the state. And so I'm pleased that we do take at least one day a year where everyone else gets invited to see the work that we do and to see the work that's done for our student veterans here on campus. So I would just say thank you to the folks that do work in the Veterans Resource Center here at Orange Coast College, and for all those who support them. You know, we have a couple days where we talk about veterans, right? We have Memorial Day and we have Veterans Day. Memorial Day happened a few months back, and that's a day of remembrance. It's a solemn day where we think about those that left to serve and didn't come back. Veterans Day is different. Veterans Day is a day where we get to celebrate, throw a party, tell everybody Happy Veterans Day, take a minute to say thank you to a veteran, which I'll talk about here in a few minutes. But it's a great day to welcome vets home and say thank you for all the things that you do. And I was going to talk about the history of Veterans Day, and that's already been done. That's great. I'm glad you guys have heard that story about Armistice Day being now called Veterans Day. So I want to talk about something that happened a little bit before 1954 when we started calling it Veterans Day, and the impact that World War I had on how we celebrate and work with veterans today as well. So, you know, after World War I was done, the United States, told all the veterans of that war that we'd give them a wartime bonus 20 years later. And that's a long time to wait for some money, right? In fact, in those 20 years, we had the Great Depression that happened in the United States as well. And so you had all these veterans that had come back from the war, and they were running out of money like everyone else was. And so they actually marched on Washington, D.C. to demand that those wartime bonuses be paid to them early. And it didn't happen. They actually called in the Army to push out these soldiers from Washington, D.C. And fortunately, there was some memory of that as World War II was raging on in the Pacific and in Europe. And so in 1944, Congress said, you know, we probably shouldn't let that happen again. How can we ensure that our veterans are taken care of when they come back from World War II? And they introduced the Servicemen's Readjustment Act of 1944. We now call that the GI Bill. And the GI Bill was really forward thinking, right? It was this bill that would provide a wide range of things for the returning veterans: home loans, farm loans, and education money. Now, just so you know, higher education wanted nothing to do with that. They were looking across the seas in both directions and saying, you know, those vets are not our kind of people, right? In fact, no less than the president of Harvard said, "No, thank you. We don't want a GI Bill. We don't. Those vets are not the people we want to have on our institutions." And fortunately for the whole country, Congress went ahead and passed that bill, and the president signed that bill providing education. That same president of Harvard later had to apologize for what he had said, because they found that those returning veterans were mission-driven, hardworking, fantastic students that did well academically and then went on to rebuild a nation. You know, you drive on the freeways out here, and I know there's a lot of traffic, but the freeway system across the U.S. is pretty amazing, right? That was done after World War II by all those vets, right? The space race, going to the moon, doing all of those things, all those advancements, the economic growth of the United States back in the 1950s can be attributed to those vets that came back and went to college because they had the GI Bill, which was great for them. But how did it impact the rest of the country? Well, we didn't have enough colleges and universities to accommodate 16 million people coming back from war, right? And so throughout the country, we started to see colleges and universities just like this one. As you just learned, this college was established back in 1948. I mean, why? Because the war was over and all these vets were coming back. We needed a place to educate them. And so by building all of those colleges and universities, we helped the vets in that day. But the people that we helped next were their children, right? And so we actually saw a big change in how higher education worked after the war as well. And as the children of the baby boom came of age and went to college, we also saw the demographics at colleges and universities change as well. It went from all the men that had come back from the war to all of their children, and women started going to college in much higher numbers. Now, I don't know what the numbers are right here on this campus, but I'm going to guess it's probably around 60% women and about 40% men today. Does that sound about right to those of you that run the place? Yeah, because that's what it looks like in higher education today. So we provided access to higher education because we were trying to help a bunch of GIs come back from a war. And so I think that's really, really an important thing to know. Now, when we fast forward to today, we're serving a whole new generation of veterans, right? And some things we need to think about there is, you know, World War II, the big war, right? 16 million Americans, about 12% of the United States population served in the war. Fast forward to now, and we have this global war on terror that we've been fighting since 2001, where recent statistics show that about 0.84% of adults in America, that's not just the American population, that's just the adults, people over the age of 18, 0.84% serve in the military today. It's a very small number of people that are asked to do a lot, right? And those are the people that we serve in our colleges and universities today. And that new generation of veterans may look a little bit different than the generation of veterans that came before as well. They're more diverse in pretty much every conceivable way, right? Race, ethnicity, socioeconomic status, gender identity, sexual preference, religious beliefs, political philosophies. They're very, very different. They represent the full spectrum of the human experience. And they bring that experience along with their military experience to our colleges and universities every day. And they make our campuses richer because of all of that. So, of course, we want to say thank you to veterans, but I want to talk about how we say thank you to veterans. So bear with me for just a minute, because what I'm going to say at first is going to sound a little odd to you. And I'm going to say next time you meet a veteran and they tell you that they're a veteran, halt just a moment before you say the words, "Thank you for your service." Okay? Now, that usually freaks people out a little bit. They're saying, that guy said don't say thank you to veterans. It's not what I'm saying. Here's what I want you to do next time you almost say thank you for your service. Instead, ask them what service they were in. Ask them where they went. Ask them how their service was to them, right? Did you enjoy it? You might find someone say, no, I hated every minute. Worst 4 years of my entire life, right? Ask them if they would do it again. 9 out of 10 would say, yep, I would do it again though, right? They're proud of what they did, right? But when you ask those questions, you'll learn a little bit about that person. You might hear a great story. You might make a new friend. And when they're done telling you a couple of things about themselves, you're probably still going to want to say thank you for your service, but you'll probably use different words. You'll say, you know what, I'm so glad you did that anyway. Thank you for doing what you did. Welcome home, right? And the difference in the way that you say that and the fact that you took a minute to learn a little bit about them will make all the difference in the way they hear it, the way they receive it. It will sound like it's coming from your heart and not out of habit. So it's a big deal. Now, when I say all of that, I'm primarily talking about our younger vets. But I also want to take a pause and talk about some vets that are from a previous generation. And those are those veterans of the Vietnam era. And I would say everything else I said right there was true, but you can start with thank you for your service and then ask those other questions as well. Because those, mostly men, but also women that served in Vietnam, have waited a lot of years to hear someone say thank you for your service. So I'll do that right now. For those of you that served in Vietnam and in that era, thank you for your service. And for the rest of you that have served since, you know, we all know that we're walking in their footsteps, right? And so we thank you as well. All right. So say thank you, but thank from the heart. Now I've lost my notes here. All right. And the last thing I'll say, and I'm going to address this to our younger veterans right now. You know, when you get out of the service, often you find that you miss the camaraderie of the service. And some of you, I know, will miss that mission orientation that you had in the service where someone sets a mission and you go accomplish it. And I've sat in a room with younger veterans and listened to them talk about what I recognized as a bit of a fear, though that word never comes out of a veteran's mouth, right? But there's that fear that they're not going to find something else in their life that's going to be as meaningful as their service was. And I just want to tell you, you're going to find something. And I want you to seek that something. Now, it may not be wearing a uniform. It may be taking care of your own children. It may be a job that you have. It may be a hobby that you have. It may be helping members of your community. But in some way, seek out that opportunity to serve. Your service doesn't have to stop when you take off your uniform. And that is what is going to create a rich and fulfilling life for you. So I want to say to those young veterans, thank you for the service you have already given and the service that I know that you will continue to give to your communities. For the rest of you that didn't serve, thank you for being here today to celebrate veterans. Happy Veterans Day to everyone. Have an amazing and happy holiday weekend. And as I wrap up, I just have to add one other thing. Apologies for anyone this doesn't directly relate to, but for my fellow Marines out there, happy birthday. You all look great for 248 years old. Thank you very much.
Dr. Thomas, we have a small token of appreciation for your contributions today in our ceremony, for your instrumental role and influence our abilities at OCC to better support our student veterans, and for your countless contributions to veterans across the strait. A certificate of appreciation, along with a swag bag, because nobody does it better than Orange Coast College. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Hello again. My name is Jonathan Jimenez, and I have the privilege of working with our veterans every day while in OCC at the Veterans Resource Center. As the advisor to the local Student Veterans of America chapter, I am also a proud Army veteran. A key part of any successful student veterans organization is its leadership board, and at the helm of ours is Alan Leyva. President of OCC SVA Chapter, and veteran of the United States Marine Corps. I'd like to invite Alan to the podium to say a few words.
Ladies and gentlemen, as a proud Marine veteran, I stand before you today with deep gratitude in my heart on this Veterans Day to honor those who have served in our nation's military. Veterans Day is not just a date on a calendar, it's a day of reflection, gratitude, and unity. For many of us, our service in the Marines, Army, Navy, Air Force, Coast Guard, and Space Force represents a significant chapter in our lives. We face challenges and overcome adversities and form bonds that will last a lifetime. But our service didn't end when we hung up our uniforms. It merely transformed into a new mission, one that requires us to continue to serve and support each other as veterans. When we transition from the military into civilian life, it can be a challenge and sometimes daunting journey. Many of us choose to leave behind the close-knitted brotherhood and sisterhood that defined our service, but the unique bond that we forge in the military does not disappear. It's as if we speak a common language that transcends words, a language built on shared experiences, sacrifice, and unwavering commitment to a greater cause than ourselves. In the classroom, we become comrades once again, and that connection is a source of strength and support. The bond we form with our fellow student veterans are not just comforting, they're empowering. Together, we inspire and push each other to succeed academically and in our post-military career. We, the Student Veteran Association, offer a support network that helps us overcome obstacles and achieve our goals and aspirations. Let us remember and honor those who have served, those who are currently serving, and those who will follow in our footsteps. To the veterans here today, thank you. Your service and sacrifice represents the best of us and the best of America. Veterans and service members, if you're able, please stand to be recognized. We salute you and appreciate the great cost that often comes with serving.
Thank you all for coming to join us today in honor of our veterans. This concludes today's presentation. Please join us for refreshments in the room immediately behind you. Thank you.